93 million by 2011. That was the projection given. Slum population will increase from 65 million in 2001 to 93 million in 2011. When 2011 census came, the slum population was reported to be 66 million only. There's no increase in the slum population. Immediately, Secretary Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation gave an interview, said, look, we have succeeded. We have been able to provide, improve the slums. And they also reported, by the way, if you look at 2011 census data, that the gap between slum and non-slum population in the urban areas in terms of access to amenities, the gap has gone down. You must have seen the report coming up from the census itself, and this is true. Access to water, access to sanitation, access to TVs, motor vehicles, all different kinds of assets. The gap between slum and non-slum households in access to these gaps have declined over time. So obviously Secretary Ministry of Housing said that, well, that shows that we have been able to improve the conditions of the slums. I had written a small piece, and then sometimes write for newspapers also, and unfortunately there has not been any tweet excepting the one on such a commission. The moment the report came, there were 120 comments coming up in 6 hours time, and I must say 30 or 40 of them are absolutely unprintable. That is in the name of freedom of expression. No, but this piece that I wrote in Hindustan Times, which was the glass half empty or half full, wherein I said that, look, if you have slum eviction, if you really push out the slums which are at a very low level of basic amenities, what would happen? The remaining slums will show a higher level of amenities. If in a classroom, if you throw out the students who are doing very badly, the average performance will go up. So actually what happened, 65 million becoming 66 million really means that you did not allow more new slums to come up. So bad slums were in any way pushed out. So the gaps are bound to go down, and that's what has happened. I have a feeling this is an exclusionary urbanization, and this urbanization model that we have, wherein you are making things difficult for the poor and vulnerable to come into the urban centers, big cities have become exclusionary. Look at 26 largest cities of India. Excepting Puducherry and Bengaluru, you find all the other cities showing significant decline in their growth rate of population, including Kolkata. Bombay's absolute population in the central part has declined. Delhi's growth rate was 4% per annum during 91-2001. Between 2001-2011, it is less than 2%. Big cities have become exclusionary. The poor, marginalized sections of population running into the big cities have become much more difficult. Access to land and amenities have become much more difficult, much more expensive. And that's the reason why, if you exclude this census activism, there are 2,800 new towns which have been identified. If you take them out, and Mahalaya will tell you how many of them came in the share of West Bengal. If you exclude them, you find growth rates of most of the states have gone down. Growth rate of population in most of the big cities, because you are sanitizing the cities, quote unquote. Sanitizing the cities to attract the global capital, to retain our own industrialists and skilled manpower within the cities. Now, I understand that is a motivation, that you want industrialization to come through FDI, and FDI brings in some foreign experts, skilled people, and they want the cities to be sanitized. They don't want to live in a dirty city which has problems of violence. You find that the growth rate of urban population, these bars are showing percentage of urban population, but the black line is showing the growth rate, which went up to 71, 81. There was some adjustment that I made in the growth rate because 61 census had some data problem, so I just made that adjustment. But nonetheless, you see that the growth rate of population has gone down, and 2001, 2011, growth rate of population was 2007-3. This has gone up to 2.76. Actually, growth rate of urban population has remained constant, just because we have identified 2,800 new census towns. If you exclude them, you find growth rate of urban population has declined to 2.5% from 2.7%. Go to the next one. these dark blue ones are the projections given by UN for India's urban growth rate. Why so many? These are the growth rates for between 2025 and 30. Why so many pillars? Because first projection was given in 1995, which was 3.2% will be the growth rate of urban population in India between 2025 and 30. But subsequently in 2004 they revised it. Then again they revised it, and they are keeping on revising it because actual urban growth rate in India is much less than what was projected. ADB had said urban avalanche is coming. There is no urban avalanche coming. Cities have become exclusionary, and if your urbanization process is exclusionary, obviously you are not able to reach your benefits to the rural areas. And my model is that instead of creating 85 million plus cities, if you can have a number of small and medium towns coming up in the neighborhood, it should be a much better strategy. I just want to refer to one study by not a leftist Marxist intellectual, but a person from the World Bank, Ejaz Ghani. He says that if you, between Delhi and Mumbai, there are 7 million plus cities coming up. Through the Delhi-Mumbai corridor is through Rajasthan. It is through a dry area where water scarcity is there. They are planning 7 million plus cities. If you plan a number of small and medium towns, let's say 40 or 50 of them, you have a much better chance of reaching out to the people. And that's a study by the World Bank which shows that the strategy of only creating big cities and promoting them, and as the World Bank said with arrogance, you might have read the 2009 report which says reshaping economic geography. Economic geography of the third world countries must be reshaped by promoting big cities which are centers of agglomeration and efficiency. I think that strategy needs to be looked at. This is something, as I said, rural-urban divide is also a divide between scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and non-scheduled caste population divide, because my analysis shows, I think this is a significant point which we have made in this report also, that migration of scheduled caste population from rural to urban areas in the last decade has been less than the upper caste Hindu population. Migration of Muslims from rural areas to urban areas have been less compared to upper caste Hindu population, because this whole migration stream is exclusionary. I am not saying, perhaps the question that was asked, attitudinal problem, I have not been able to go into that. Maybe it is they who do not want to come, or it is the cities which are not allowing them, but nonetheless it is the poor and the vulnerable section who are not able to come to the urban areas. Urban growth rate, if it has gone down from 2.7 to 2.5, as I mentioned, if you really make adjustment for the new towns, then who are the people who are getting excluded? It is the poor and marginalized section, SC, ST, Muslim population. Their percentage share in the migration stream is going down. The unskilled laborer share in the migration stream has declined. It is the higher levels of education in the higher expenditure categories that the people are able to migrate. If you look at my EPW article, I have shown how the composition of migrants have changed. Not the poorest of the poor, but the better off sections who are migrating to the urban areas. Let me come, this is the concluding section. I just take another 10 minutes and then we can perhaps have more time.
15 or 20 minutes.
Okay, Amitabh, I think we will have...
The second speaker is gone.
Second speaker is not yet coming. So...
we have enough time.
He speaks whatever he speaks. We'll see.
After that we have some time for jokes and sharing some, there are a lot of jokes coming up in political scenes, so we have time for that also. Now let us look at this. This is not in the report, but this is an analysis that we have done for post such a evaluation committee. This committee was set up before 6 months by the Ministry of Minority Affairs. I can read out the names of the members. Mohanan, who is the Deputy Director General in National Sample Survey Organization, because I wanted database to be absolutely correct, so that I don't want to get into an argument with Arvind Pangadia and Jagdish Bhagwati, because they have taken the position that Muslims are doing very well, much better than the upper caste Hindu population. Amirullah Khan, he is the Vice Chancellor of Global University. Mr. Inamdar, he is a leader, is a Muslim leader of eminence, Manzoor Alam, he's from Objective Studies Institute Director, Professor Jimol Unni, Director IRMA, Abdul Shaban is Professor, and if I am able to quote, he has been my student also at JNU, and Ali Ahmad Khan, he is the member secretary. So we were told to look at the conditions of the Muslims in relation to that of the other communities. Those of you who have been working in the area might know that such a commission had suggested that there would be an equal opportunity commission which should be set up, and there was a diversity index commission which should be set up. Have you heard of this diversity index? Basically, what such a commission wanted is that instead of giving too much of emphasis on reservation, because reservation is yes and no. You have one post, either you give it or you don't give that to that person. Instead of doing that, if you have an incentive system wherein an organization which is for the last 5 years have not given adequate representation to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, to Muslims, and to gender. These are the 3 dimensions which we incorporated. That institution should not get the similar kind of incentive as the others. Like UGC can set up a special grant fund, and if Delhi University, and I'm mentioning it because I was a part of the visiting team for the Delhi University, and we said that Delhi University has not, in the faculty position out of 200, there are only 2 faculty members who are belonging to SC/ST. For Muslims there is no reservation, right? So basically this diversity index commission will take the data from all the public organizations, universities, and rank them. And those which are performing badly in diversity index, as I said, there are 3 dimensions. You can just put Kundu committee and you will get that report. It is freely downloadable. Those which are not getting the minimum values, they will not get the full incentive, and if consistently for 5-10 years you are underperforming in the diversity front. In Europe there are rating on the basis of environmental concerns. There are rating on the basis of labor. If you have employed child labor, you get a brown certificate and your marketability goes down. We said that reservation is only limited to public sector, but the diversity index based incentive system can easily cover the private sector as well. How? 92% of the private companies are having something to do with the public sector. They are either getting subcontracted jobs or they are suppliers. So you can always say that if you do not have even half of the diversity index, he will not get this kind of an incentive. You will not get 15% subsidy, you will get 5% subsidy. So it is very much possible to really bring the private sector also into the fold of this diversity index based incentive system. In our report we said that the possibility of helping the deprived minority community and scheduled caste population through reservation is limited, because government jobs are not coming in huge numbers. How many jobs are coming up? So similarly in education and health also there are reservations, but there are private sector which are coming in. You have to have a system which covers the private sector. Think about it. Suppose we publish, India Today magazine publishes or Times of India publishes that the ranking of all the private corporate sector, Ambani's and Ansals and all that, in your diversity. I have a feeling it might mobilize public opinion that these are the companies which are not respecting diversity. So I'm simply saying that diversity index based thinking should be a part of mindset. It should really become a movement. It should come out of the public sector, and we should be able to create private diversity in a private space. Diversity should not be viewed as a problem, it should be a matter of celebration. And our concern is reflected in the data. We have taken, just go back to the last one. You see, what we did was to find out per capita consumption expenditure For rural areas, we have a different price index to put them at par. The last one stand for the average. The next one is for the Muslims, and then on the left hand side, the blue one is for upper caste Hindus. The next one, let's start from the extreme left. Extreme left is for upper caste Hindus. The next one, which is the tallest, can you guess? This is for other minorities, other than Muslim minorities, which includes Sikhs, Christians, Parsis. They are, in terms of consumption expenditure, they are at the highest level, even higher than the upper caste Hindus. And the next two are scheduled caste and scheduled tribe population. And the next one is Muslim, which is slightly higher. In the rural area, you see Muslim consumption expenditure is slightly higher than scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. And the last one is the average rural. Is that point clear? Now this is the first block. Second block is million plus cities, because million plus cities have a different characteristics. And third block is non-million plus urban areas, and the fourth one is all urban areas. I will leave this PowerPoint, those of you who want to look at it. But now, believe me, what I am saying on the basis of this graph, in rural areas, Muslims are not the most deprived community in terms of consumption expenditure, in terms of poverty. Why? Poverty among Muslims is less compared to the scheduled tribe poverty, compared to scheduled caste poverty in the rural areas. Why? There are historical factors. Muslims are not in agriculture. There are not many, agricultural laborers in India, who are purely agricultural laborers. They are carpenters. They are into some kind of a non-agricultural activity, and as a result, their per capita expenditure, per capita income is higher. And that's why in the rural areas, you see the last two are more or less similar. The rural Muslims are getting 90% of the average rural consumption expenditure. This is not only true for 93, 94, at 87, 88 prices. This is the constant prices. But even in 2011-12, we find the picture remains the same. What about million plus cities? When the Muslims migrate to the million plus cities, they are reasonably better off. They are still better than scheduled caste population in the million plus cities. But scheduled tribe population in the million plus cities are doing fairly well. Here and also 2011-12, you find they are doing very well. Why? Because scheduled tribe population goes to a million plus city only when they've got a job through reservation, So that is why the scheduled tribe consumption expenditure in the urban areas, in the million plus cities, is quite high. It is slightly higher than even the Muslim population, but Muslim population are not, at that level of deprivation in the big cities, because the deprivation of the Muslims, discrimination against the Muslims, in the big cities is not that significant because there is anonymity. Not many people may know that he is a Muslim. In the labor market, in the housing market is a major area. You might think that this is not true, or my friend is living in my area. But if you really go to the ground level, and I have talked to some of the property dealers in Delhi, they would say, yeah, we don't mind, but if his house is attacked, my property will be damaged because if I give it to a Muslim, that feeling is very much there. But in large cities, this is not the case. You find Muslim consumption expenditure is not that bad, but in other areas and the total urban areas, Muslims are at the rock bottom. Muslim per capita consumption expenditure in total urban is less compared to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe population. Go to the next one. This is a little bit congested, but this is giving the picture. In 2011-12, this is exactly showing the same thing, that Muslims are at the bottom. There are two bars at the end. Now we have broken Muslims into two parts, Muslim OBCs and Muslim others, and you find both of them combined are at lower level even compared to SC, ST population in the urban areas, but in rural areas, Muslim OBCs and Muslim others, non-OBCs, are slightly better than scheduled caste and scheduled tribe population. Go to the next one. Now this is an interesting gap. I wanted to show how movement from rural to metropolitan cities or rural to urban areas benefits different socio-religious groups. These bars are telling you the ratio of urban to rural for different socio-religious groups. Actually, it will tell you how many times your consumption expenditure will be if you go from rural to a metropolitan city and if you go from rural to urban areas. It is really telling you how much improvement you expect in your economic conditions if you shift from rural areas to a big city or a small town, and who benefits most. It is the upper caste Hindus whose ratio is the highest. This is again pure NSS data, and you find the last one is for the Muslims. By migration, Muslims tend to benefit least, whereas through migration from rural to metropolitan cities and rural to urban areas, the upper caste Hindus tend to get maximum advantage, which again I do not want to say whether it is because of their mindset or it is the social discrimination. These are the issues which are much more difficult. I cannot answer that question, but nonetheless the data do show that since Muslims are not benefiting that much in terms of the increase in consumption expenditure, their migration rate may be declining. We can go to the next one. This is difference in average NPCE. That means we are taking the monthly per capita expenditure in 2011-12 minus the monthly per capita expenditure in 2004-05. Just the absolute difference in the monthly per capita expenditure. I have not calculated growth rate. You know why? Because if you calculate growth rate, the Muslims are at a very low level. With the same increase, the growth rate will be very high. And I have a feeling that at a very low level, you can just find out how many rupees their consumption expenditure has gone up, and what is coming out startlingly is that the increase for the Muslims in per capita terms is the lowest both in the rural and urban areas. The increase in the consumption expenditure in absolute terms is very low. We can go to the, but there are two other curves. Sorry, I was in a hurry in the morning, I couldn't include that, but just give me another couple of minutes. I just want to share the debate between Arvind Bhandaria's analysis and our analysis. You see, we have the poverty figures for SC, ST, OBC, upper caste Hindus, Muslims and other religious groups, Christians, Sikhs, for 2 years, 2004-05 and 2011-12. We have focused on this period because this is the post-Sachar period. Sachar report was submitted in 2006. We wanted to see who benefited most. Our conclusion in this is that, the media people wanted to use it for their own benefit. I don't know what kind of motivation they had. The headline was, Muslims are being discriminated, they are the worst of the lot, excepting in per capita consumption expenditure increase. In all other areas, we have shown that the improvement for the Muslims is similar compared to the improvement in the other communities. We have not said, excepting one indicator, that is increase in the per capita consumption expenditure. In health, education and poverty, we find that there is a decline in poverty for the Muslims also. There is a decline in the poverty for OBC Muslims, non-OBC Muslims. But the decline is similar. It is not more. We were expecting that such a committee has changed the perspective of policy intervention. PM has come out with separate program, Muslim concentration district. We are simply saying that has not worked. We have not said that the present government is anti-Muslim. We are simply saying that present government is not as much pro-Muslim as it is claiming to be. It does not show any pro-Muslim evidence in the implementation of the program from 2006-07. That's the kind of dispassionate position we want to take. But unfortunately, whichever newspaper fellow publishes, either they get into the BJP line saying that this UPA government has not done anything for the Muslims, which is not the argument we have given. But I just wanted to show you the figures that will take 1 minute. There is a decline in the poverty figures for Muslims from 44% in 2004-05 to 28%, the fall of 16 percentage points. For Hindus, it is 43% to 26%. which is 17 percentage point. I have said the decline is similar. 16 point for the Muslims, 17 point for the Hindus, and more or less at the same level. So we said that in the rural areas, poverty decline is similar. In urban areas, I just leave this question open to you because Arvind Pangadia has taken exactly the opposite position from what we have taken. Hindu poverty was 23%, it has gone down to 12% in urban areas. It's a decline of 11 percentage points. For Muslims, 43% gone down to 23%, it's a decline of 20 percentage points. So decline for Muslims for poverty is 20 percentage points, for Hindus it is 11 percentage points. Right? We were discussing yesterday, I again called the meeting of my members, 23 becoming half as 12 and 43 becoming half as 20. They are just becoming half. Right? Poverty for the Muslims have become half, poverty for the Hindus have become half. And I believe that reducing poverty from 23 to half of that requires much more effort than 43 to half of that. So I didn't want to take any position. I have simply argued that the reduction is similar for Hindus and the Muslims. That's the position we have taken in this report. But when I was listening to presentation of Professor Bagchi, I thought that 2 or 3 other issues came up. We have compared Muslim OBCs with Hindu OBCs. And we find that among Muslim OBCs, 70% are socially and economically underprivileged. But among Hindu OBCs, it is not even 40%. Hindu OBCs include Meenas, include Jats. So we have argued, I don't want to tell you exactly the recommendation, that there can be a sub-quota within OBC, because if the Muslim OBCs are competing within the OBC category, it is not able to get its due share because it is competing with much uneven playing field. That is one suggestion that we have certainly given, that Muslim OBCs are much more deprived. I think you are mentioning that Muslim OBCs are nearer scheduled caste population in many indicators. So we have suggested that there has to be special programs or some kind of a sub-quota within the state programs. And the other thing I can share with you, we have suggested that among Muslims, although many Muslim intellectuals did not agree, and they will never agree, and they did not allow me to put that word, caste system within Muslims. They said caste system does not exist. Whereas our colleague members said this is all nonsense, they don't want to admit. There is very much a caste system. There are people among the Muslims who are doing the sweeper's job and they are clearly identifiable. We have said those caste groups which are doing similar kind of job traditionally, not that a Brahmin suddenly starts doing a cobbler's job, they will be considered as a scheduled caste. But traditionally, historically, those Muslim groups which are doing the similar kind of jobs or trades as the scheduled caste population should be in the scheduled caste list. That is another suggestion that we have given. We have been branded as so far with some at least 10 newspaper reporting I've seen that you are being communal about it, your conclusions are pro-Muslim, and some people are saying, sorry, you are right, you are criticizing the present government, we should change the government and the new government will help. I don't know which new government is coming up and whether they will respect this agenda. So I thought that this will be a nice forum. I cannot leave this with you, but I have more or less shared the broad perspective of our recommendation. The final point I wanted to say, we have said that instead of reservation, we should move to a diversity index-based support system, which would help the Muslims, the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe population, and also women in getting a due share in the private sector. Because those institutions and organizations which do not respect diversity index, over time they should be brought to public notice. There should be general awareness that these are the institutions which do not follow, and over time that should help in creating a better, accessible India and inclusive India. Thank you.